Sunset Boulevard, 1962. A 17-year-old kid was dying on stage. Not literally, but close. His name was Thomas Rivera. He'd been singing on the street corner for 3 hours straight. His voice was cracking. His tips jar had $4 in it, most of it his own money planted there to look like people actually cared. People walked past like he was invisible. Some laughed. One man in a business suit dropped a nickel and said, "Buy yourself some talent, kid." A woman with her children crossed the street to avoid him, like poverty was contagious. Thomas was about to quit, pack up the beat-up acoustic guitar his father had left him, accept that his father's dying dream would stay buried with him in that cemetery in East L.A., accept that the promise Thomas had made at his father's grave, "I'll make it, Papa, I swear I'll make it," was just another lie told to a dead man who couldn't hear it anymore. His fingers were bleeding. The guitar strings were old, rusted, sharp as razor wire. He'd been playing for 3 hours without a break because stopping meant thinking, and thinking meant remembering, and remembering meant the crushing weight of knowing his father had died believing Thomas would be somebody, would be a singer, would make the Rivera name mean something. But nobody was listening. Not the tourists heading to the Chinese theater, not the hustlers and dealers who worked this stretch of Sunset, not the cops who'd already told him twice to move along. Nobody. Thomas looked down at his tips jar. $4 in 3 hours. He'd made more money washing cars last summer. He was done. He reached down to close the guitar case when he heard it. The sound of a car slowing down, engine purring. Expensive, not the rattling beaters that usually crawled down Sunset. This was smooth, powerful, a car that cost more than Thomas's family made in 5 years. A black Cadillac Eldorado pulled to the curb. Thomas tensed. Rich people didn't stop for street musicians. They either ignored you or called the cops. This couldn't be good. The driver's door opened. A man stepped out, tall, wearing sunglasses even though the sun was setting, dark suit, fedora, the kind of man who looked like he owned things, buildings, people, futures. Thomas started gathering his things. "I'm leaving, sir. I wasn't trying to—" The man held up one hand. "Wait." Thomas froze. The man walked closer, slow, deliberate, each step measured like he had all the time in the world. He stopped about 6 feet from Thomas, tilted his head slightly like he was studying something. Then he took off his sunglasses. It was Dean Martin. Thomas's heart stopped, actually stopped. He forgot how to breathe. The guitar nearly slipped from his hands. Thomas's voice came out as a squeak. He cleared his throat, tried again. "Mr. Martin, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I wasn't trying to bother anyone. I'll move. Dean Martin held up his hand again, that same gentle gesture. "What's your name, kid?" "Thomas. Thomas Rivera." "How old are you, Thomas?" 17. 18 next month." Dean nodded slowly. "What were you singing just now, before you stopped?" Thomas's mind went blank. What had he been singing? He couldn't remember, couldn't think. Dean Martin was standing in front of him, and his brain had completely shut down. I was singing Volare, the old Italian song. My father, he used to—" Thomas's voice cracked. "He taught me, before he died." Something shifted in Dean's expression. Something softened. "When did he die?" 8 months ago. Heart attack. He was 42. Dean was quiet for a long moment. Just stood there, hands in his pockets, looking at Thomas. Really looking. Not the way adults usually looked at teenagers, with that mixture of annoyance and condescension. Dean looked at Thomas like he was seeing someone, like he mattered. "Sing it again," Dean said quietly. "What?" "Volare. Sing it again, from the beginning." "Mr. Martin, I don't think—" "Thomas," Dean's voice was firm, but not unkind. "Your father taught you that song. He wanted you to sing it. So sing it. For him. Not for these people walking past. For him." Thomas felt tears burning in his eyes. He nodded, swallowed hard, positioned his fingers on the guitar strings. He started to sing. His voice shook at first, rough and uncertain, but then it steadied, grew stronger. He closed his eyes, and for a moment he was back in his father's garage, listening to Miguel Rivera hum this melody while fixing cars, teaching his son the Italian words, telling him stories about the old country, about music, about dreams. When Thomas opened his eyes, Dean Martin had stepped closer, was standing right in front of him now, and Dean was singing too. That voice, that legendary, smooth as silk Dean Martin voice, singing harmony, singing with Thomas Rivera, a nobody street kid with bleeding fingers and $4 in his tips jar. They sang the first verse together, then the second. Dean's voice wrapped around Thomas's like they'd been singing together for years. People on the streets stopped, actually stopped. Crowds started forming. Within minutes there were 50 people gathered on the sidewalk, then 100, then more. Car horns honked, not in anger, but in appreciation. Someone started clapping, others joined. By the time they hit the final chorus, Sunset Boulevard had come to a complete standstill. They finished. The last note hung in the air. The crowd erupted. Applause, cheers, whistles. Someone threw money, then someone else. Bills started landing in Thomas's guitar case. Not nickels, not quarters, $5 bills, $10 bills. One guy threw a 20. Thomas stood there, stunned, tears streaming down his face. Dean Martin had just sung with him, on Sunset Boulevard, in front of hundreds of people. Dean Martin. Dean smiled, that famous smile, and put his hand on Thomas's shoulder. Your father would be proud. Thomas lost it, completely, sobbed right there on the sidewalk, in front of all these people, in front of Dean Martin. 8 months of grief came pouring out, 8 months of trying to be strong for his mother, 8 months of pretending he was okay when he wasn't, 8 months of failing. Dean didn't move, just kept his hand on Thomas's shoulder, let him cry, let the crowd fade away, let the moment be what it needed to be. When Thomas finally pulled himself together, Dean spoke quietly. What did your father do? He was a mechanic, fixed cars, but he loved music, used to sing all the time, in the garage, in the kitchen, everywhere. Thomas wiped his face. He said I had a gift, that I should chase it, make something of myself. Dean nodded. And what have you been doing besides this? Thomas looked down, ashamed. Working at a gas station, pumping gas, checking oil. My mom needs the money. We're behind on rent. My little sister needs school clothes. I can't afford to chase dreams, Mr. Martin. Dean pulled out his wallet. Thomas tensed, expecting maybe $20, maybe $50 if he was lucky, a pity donation from a rich man. Dean pulled out $200, handed it to Thomas. Mr. Martin, I can't. Yes, you can, Dean said firmly. That's for your mother, for your sister, for the rent, so you can stop worrying about that for a minute. Thomas stared at the money in his hands. $200, more than he made in 2 months at the gas station. Dean wasn't done. He pulled out a business card, wrote something on the back, handed it to Thomas. That's my manager's direct number, Herman Citron. You call him Monday morning. Tell him I sent you. Tell him to set you up with voice lessons, real ones, not street corner practice, actual training. Thomas couldn't speak, just stared at the card. You got a gift, kid. Your father was right, but gifts don't mean anything if you don't train them. Discipline, practice, work, that's what turns talent into a career. I don't know what to say, Thomas whispered. Dean put his hand on Thomas's shoulder again. Don't say anything, just promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't give up. Promise me that when it gets hard, and it will get hard, you'll remember this moment. You'll remember that somebody believed in you, and you'll keep singing. Thomas nodded, tears streaming again. I promise. Dean smiled. Good. He started to walk back to his car, then paused, turned back. Thomas, one more thing. That song, Volare. It means to fly in Italian. Your father taught you that song for a reason. He wanted you to fly. So fly. And then Dean Martin got in his Cadillac and drove away, leaving Thomas Rivera standing on Sunset Boulevard with $200, a business card, and something he'd lost 8 months ago when his father died: hope. Thomas called Herman Citron on Monday at 9 a.m. sharp. His hands shook so badly he could barely dial. Herman Citron's office? Hi, my name is Thomas Rivera. Dean Martin told me to call. He said, Thomas, Dean told me to expect your call. Let's get you set up. Within a week, Thomas was taking vocal lessons with one of the best vocal coaches in Los Angeles, 3 times a week, paid for by Dean. Within a month, Herman had gotten Thomas a few small gigs, coffee shops, small clubs, nothing big, but paying work, real work. Within a year, Thomas Rivera had a recording contract. Within 5 years, Thomas Rivera was touring with his own band, opening for major acts, making a living doing what his father had always said he should do: singing. He never forgot. Not the street corner, not the $4 in his tips jar, not the moment Dean Martin stopped his car, not the promise he'd made. Every single performance for 40 years, Thomas ended the same way, with Volare, and before he sang it, he'd say, "This one's for my father, and for the man who stopped his car." Thomas was in his dressing room in Las Vegas. He was headlining at the Tropicana now, a solid career, not superstar level, but successful, happy, proud, when his manager knocked. "Thomas, there's a package for you, hand-delivered." Thomas opened it. Inside was a letter. "Thomas, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I wanted to write this while I still could. That night on Sunset Boulevard, I've told that story 100 times. It's one of my favorites. Not because of me, because of you. You kept your promise. You didn't give up. You flew. Your father would be so proud. Hell, I'm proud. Keep singing, kid. Keep making him proud. Your friend, Dean." The letter was dated December 15th, 1995. 5 days later, Dean Martin died. Thomas read the letter 3 times, then carefully folded it, placed it in his wallet, right next to a faded, creased photograph of his father, Miguel Rivera, standing in his garage, covered in grease, smiling at the camera. That night, Thomas performed Volare, and when he finished, he looked up at the lights, at the ceiling, at whatever was beyond. "Thank you, Papa," he whispered, "and thank you, Dean. I flew, just like you told me to."